Welcome, dear listener, to Desert Island Gamer, a quick-fire interview podcast digging into those video games that shaped us into the wholesome, kind-hearted people we are today. The entirely original premise: one desert island, one guest, 3 games they adore, one game they abhor, and a carefully selected gaming character with which to spend an eternity of moonlit walks along the beach. It could be weird, it could be unhinged, and it could have crappy sound quality, but at least it will be short. To the island. Welcome to Desert Island Gamer, the podcast that wishes its creator and host would at least put the effort in. Never gonna happen. Today, I am joined by Tom Henrich, the mastermind behind rising Twitch channel Henhouse Gaming. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Neil. Glad to be here.
Henhouse Gaming, it's just the most wholesome, big-hearted channel on Twitch right now. It's just the perfect antidote to a world gone mad. How did this come to be?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Henhouse Gaming came about because of COVID. I was needing something to take the stress out of my life. I needed to do something. And for me, the best form of stress relief has always been creation. Write, act, do some singing. But then I got back into video gaming. And I say got back into because earlier in my life, I definitely had a video game addiction where it was detracting from my family life. It was keeping me up at night, and it wasn't healthy. So I cut it out of my life for a very long time. And, that was good. It was what I needed at the time. But I also craved that escape, that sense of creation and storytelling that you can only get from fully immersing yourself in a video game. And so I gradually, safely sort of stuck my toes back in. The way to do that safely for me was to use it as a source of creation. Yep. And so I started creating this Twitch stream, and I really wanted it to be something that my kids could watch. That's how it started. So I just wanted to do streaming that you could always rely on it to be wholesome. And then my daughter would catch me streaming, and she was especially interested in my microphone. Because we homeschool, it was a perfect opportunity to say, okay, well, here's, an audio, here's a jack. Ended up getting a headphone splitter, and then we streamed once, and she was a natural. The first episode that we did was like a comedy duo going back and forth. She just ripped me apart, and it was hilarious, and it was so much fun. And she has begged me to do it almost nightly since then, and it gives me so much joy to be able to share that with her and share that with my son and my youngest daughter, and just to get everybody together and share that community of this thing that we call gaming. Because
children don't carry the same sort of inhibitions quite often that we do as adults. It is great when they get onto like a stream.
If I can give people a spot that they can come and just leave their troubles at the door for just a second, because there's so much on people's minds, there's so much on people's plates. People just need to take time and just drop it, and then they can come pick it back up later. It'll still be there.
You have a comfort blanket movie that when you put it on, the outside world melts for a little while, and you've kind of got a comfort blanket Twitch stream. You can melt into the sofa and just forget about things for a while and just enjoy the joy, I suppose. It's as simple as that.
I love their faces when they're streaming. They shine with joy. You're exactly right.
You cover so many games, retro stuff like Super Mario 64. You've got modern games like Fall Guys. You've got serious games, Horizon Zero Dawn. You've got all bases covered.
My daughter, because I started streaming Horizon Zero Dawn for her, she found a sharp rock, took a large steel pole and duct taped the rock to the steel pole and started chasing our chickens around, stabbing at them here. So I've created a monster. And so now she calls it the Fierce Girl game. Every time she's, Dad, have you recorded another Fierce Girl game?
That's a great name. The Fierce Girl game. If you haven't found Henhouse Gaming, get onto Twitch right now. Pause this podcast, head over and have a look, because you will not regret it. But we have to move on. Icebreaker Questions. One day I'll get the drama right in that, and it'll actually sound intimidating rather than, okay. Question 1, Sam. The zombie apocalypse has been green-lighted. Which 3 fictional characters are in your team?
My go-to on any team, first off, is always Doctor Who. The Doctor from Doctor Who. I have to be specific because everybody gets them confused. The Doctor from Doctor Who. David Tennant, the 10th Doctor.
I think he's quite a lot of people's go-to Doctor as well.
Probably.
He really nailed that role, didn't he?
He really did. So he would be the first for the brains, the get out of any situation quick type deal. So he'd be that. Second would be Deadpool, because I love the humor that he brings, weapons expert, so he'd be very versatile. Nothing else, he'd just talk him to death. My third would have to be Geralt from The Witcher, and obviously played by Henry Cavill from the Netflix series, because that gruffness, crap. I'm not going to swear. I don't know what your age limit is on this. So
we can get away with a crap here and there.
All right, well, there we go. He would know the monsters, he would know territory, and he's just a solid person you can always count on. Can't count on Deadpool. Sometimes can't count on the Doctor. He might do some timey-wimey stuff on you. And
that's an interesting combination. I feel like you're going to do well in the zombie apocalypse.
I mean, I think that if you always have your dream team, I think you're probably going to do well. I would be dead.
Just jump in the TARDIS and go back to a time before the zombie apocalypse. Question 2, the 80s, the 90s, or the 2000s, if that's what we call them. Which is the greatest decade and why?
Oh, absolutely the 90s. No doubt about it. I fall squarely in the millennial age category. So nothing good came out of the 80s except me. And the 90s are always where I found my source of inspiration, music, movies, all the sort of pop culture stuff that just kind of saturated me. And I don't even like the stuff I'm the old curmudgeon now who's, this darn music these kids are listening to has got too much pop and rock and drop. And I wish that I had been a little bit older in the 90s, because I think I really would have. I probably would have joined a hair band.
If you were a wrestler, what song would you walk out to?
It has to be All Star by Smash Mouth. And the only reason is because I want to throw open a door like Shrek does on somebody and just take out. And that's it. That is just because, I mean, you can know what song is coming just off of that first note.
Yeah, everyone knows that song. If everyone didn't know it before Shrek, they definitely knew it after Shrek.
That's the only song that they ever did that got anywhere. Yeah. So.
Your gaming history.
First console that I played on was the N64. It's always been Nintendo all the way through. I've had every system except the Wii U, because I consider that to be an accessory to the Wii.
Yeah, the Wii U's a strange one.
Terrible, terrible business choice from Nintendo on that one.
We will kick in with your first choice that you will take to the desert island.
I had to give a lot of thought to this because I love a lot of games for a lot of different reasons. And I think maybe one of them might be understood by people, but the other two are probably just going to come from left field. The first one, and this is like the one that I will always take with me wherever I go, so this is my number one choice, would be Dwarf Fortress.
There's a curveball.
No idea.
Mate, I'm totally unaware of the game.
Brilliant. It is by far and away my favorite game to lose exorbitant amounts of time in. So it's a civilization simulation of a bunch of dwarves that the world is generated and simulated to a minute level for hundreds of years up until the point where you insert your civilization into it. So every time you boot up and create a new world, all the events, all of the people that you could ever possibly encounter for the whole world are generated procedurally, and all of their actions are generated. So you can, after you've generated your world, you can dive into what's called a legend, and you can view any of the people created as a part of this world and all of their interactions with each other. You don't actually control anybody. All you do is you queue up tasks to create or to do things. And then your dwarves might do it if they're feeling in the mood, or they might go get drunk and vomit all over the floor, which will then cause their significant other to trip and fall, break their neck, which causes everybody else in the whole colony that knows that dwarf to feel sad. And it'll eventually lead to one dwarf committing suicide in the lake. And then everybody starts going crazy and stripping off their clothes and running into the woods. Like I remember one of the first games I played, one of my dwarves went mad and he literally just left a trail of clothes and ran out into the woods, and I never saw him again. And it's that storytelling, that emergent storytelling that really is a huge draw for Dwarf Fortress.
Game 2.
This is the one I'm expecting more people to understand or at least know about, and that is Stellaris.
I haven't played it. I think it was one that I opened it up and there was a lot going on. And I think at that point in time, I was like, I haven't got time to go through the tutorial alone.
There is, there's a lot going on. It's one of the Paradox Games grand strategies. They market it as one of their grand strategy games, which is set in space, and it's probably the most accessible of them. I love Crusader Kings. I love Crusader Kings 2. I got Crusader Kings 3. Love those, but they're so dense. Yeah. Stellaris is much more, and it is so funny because you said that it was dense for you. Compared to Crusader Kings, it's like arcadey almost in comparison because there's so much less involved. And I think that's why it is the game that I would bring with me, because Stellaris is just a sweet piece of cake that I can dip into and just enjoy.
2 down, 1 to go.
All right. So this one is a really emotional one for me, and that is The Beginner's Guide. There we go.
You've done it to me again.
So have you heard of the Stanley Parable?
Yes.
Okay. The Beginner's Guide is done by the same person.
All right. Okay.
So it's kind of got that storytelling, not emergent storytelling, but dynamic storytelling based on your actions, based on what you're doing. But it's more about, there's not much gameplay. It's more narrative focused. And I don't want to spoil too much of it because for me, this was the game that made me feel like more could be said through video games than just having a good time. The first time I played it, I felt emotions that no video game had ever conjured in me before.
Yeah. It wasn't expected that video games would be an emotional journey.
It's about the creative process of video game developers. That's probably as most as I would want to get into it, because it is really a story that you have to experience yourself and feel how you fit into this. Like, where are you in this game that is also a commentary on games? And it's just an incredible work. Once you're done, you'll come out of it changed and it won't be the same.
3 games, 2 that I'd never heard of, I'm not going to lie. One that I've heard of and was far too complicated for my tiny brain, but I will give it another go. Is there a game that you feel warrants a place on the Flames?
With relish.
Beautiful.
With relish. It will probably come as no surprise that it's from my earlier time in gaming, and it is a fighting game. On the Nintendo 64, there was a game that I was so excited about because it was of intellectual property that I was really into at the time, and the game was called Transformers Beast Wars Transmetals.
It sounds great, especially for a kid.
Because I was watching the TV shows, I was watching with envy all of the commercials for the toys. Like, I wanted all things Transformers. We had a video game rental store. My parents would let me go and rent video games from on occasion, very, very rarely. So this was like a big thing to be able to rent a game from there. So I went there and I saw it there and I was like, oh, great, I'm going to get this. So I did. I brought it home. I was so excited, and it was just a terrible game. I mean, so control wise, it was terrible. I was like, so looking forward to embodying these big beasts, Transformer, and just sort of feeling unstoppable. And no, that wasn't there. I didn't even feel like I was controlling even the right characters. They just, so this was, I was unaware of this at the time. This is like the very definition of a cash grab. and I had absolutely no idea what that meant as a kid. It was probably the first game that I was ever truly disappointed in. And so that kind of just left this aching hole in my heart where this game should have filled.
Yeah, I understand that, especially when you get caught up in the hype and then it's awful. That never goes away.
Nope.
That never goes away.
It doesn't help that it was also, so I was raised in a very, shall we say, strict household, maybe perhaps is the best way to describe it. And we were not allowed to rent games that were rated T14. And so I snuck this one off the shelf when my parents weren't looking, brought it up to the counter, and I rented it. And I remember covering the ESRB with my hand as I was like carrying it home because I knew they were going to find out. And they found out. They somehow they knew. How did they know? Parents. And I got punished after that too. So not only was the game terrible, but I was punished for playing it.
double whammy. No one needs that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's a great game, you can take it, but a terrible game and then getting punished. Now you get to exercise those demons.
That's true.
This is what we're here for.
I feel a weight lifted off of my shoulders, and it's all thanks to you, Neil.
I sense sarcasm somewhere in those words.
Not at all. Not at all.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's not just an awful game. It's an awful game that's left a stain on childhood. It's like, yeah, we've all been there, mate. That's an excellent choice. Everyone needs a companion on the island. And who is yours going to be?
He would be best described as a sound effect. And that sound effect would be... Anything?
No.
Anything? No? Okay.
Yeah.
That was my terrible impression of Link.
Oh, you know why I didn't get that?
Why?
I've only ever played one Zelda game.
Oh, okay.
And
well, that's big of you to admit. And nobody else will recognize it either. It was a terrible impression. So I'm not expecting anybody to go, oh, yeah, that was Link, huh? I thought a lot about this because it was going back and forth between, Mario, or because Mario has been my guy from early childhood. But at the end of the day, Link won out because he's crafty. He'd build me a raft, but also he's silent. In all of his games, he doesn't say a word.
Go off his facial expressions of
right.
Exactly. I like that choice. Yeah, we've had some strange choices. Link seems a more sensible one. All that's left to say is, if you haven't yet, check out Henhouse Gaming on Twitch. You will definitely not regret it. It's an absolute antidote. Thank you very much, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Neil. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Till next time. Bye-bye.